mean. They all get increased by a point. Oh, that's such a good idea. We could do,
Panda, 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 panda. I got broads in Atlanta. Just to lean the family. Credit card.
Rook. Whiz. Okay. I'm just adding points to my tiles, if you're wondering what I'm doing. Bait. Why do you just go, hey? Oh, what are you doing? If you submit 2 or more different special tiles, multiply. If the word starts the last letter of the previous word, multiply. That's too hard. Refresh is free if you have no e-tiles. This is... Sure, this is fine. What am I dono-walling? Game volume is too dank? Really? I've been saying it for like 30 minutes. Oh, you did message me on Discord. Nice. Bro, I don't know. I'm in the zone. Sorry that I'm in the zone. English degree, by the way. Wait, how do I? Is that better? Are we fixed? Beige. Did I spell that wrong? Oh, I should have done a 4-letter. I needed to upgrade my points. Wait. Are they not upgraded? Wait, that's only for 1 round? That's cringe. Oh my god. Kill me. Oh my god. I've been throwing. I could spell a lot of things here. Okay. Tufts. That's tough. This is easy, chat. We're gonna do Gundam. Go. Damn it. It's not a word. Okay. Fine then, bitch. Oh, I need a T. Isn't quant a word? Yeah, it is. It is. It definitely is. Doodle? No. Bull? No C. Goon? Nope. Oh. I just want to write long dong. That's all I want to write, but I don't. Oh my god, long. That's not a thing. That's bullshit. All I can see is long dong. Bro, that's a huge word. That's 2 words. That should give me that one. That's crazy. That's crazy work that they don't let me have that. Oh, I got it. Nudge. Nope. Don't have enough letters for that. Nope. Nope. Oh, I don't have an I. I was thinking indulge. Bro, I have like no good letters here. I guess like the Landon is a name. Land dog. Land dog. Land dog. What's up? Up dog. It's like up dog. Under the sea. Nope. Falling. Nope. Not a word. Gulag. Wait. The gulag. Oh. Where I'm putting my chatters. All right. Poop. Poop. Modifier. When a modifier is sold or destroyed, ammo. If 2 adjacent tiles share the same letter, both score 3x. Wait, that's kind of good. If you submit 3 or more different special tiles, we'll take this one. Okay. Donda. There's no way. Okay, that's what I thought. They weren't gonna let me have that one. No A's? Aha, vulva. Yeah. I know anatomy. This is my go-to word now. Newer. There's so many O's on this. This just seems like I'm typing a slur, but I'm not. You know what? We'll just come back to this, chat. I don't need. Anyways, what's up? We'll come back to this. I didn't read chat for like an hour. Sorry. I was really in the moment. All right. Not your fault. I was really in it. I watched last night this video of this guy like putting a turbo in his car, and he was like turboing my car. And then at the end of the video, he didn't turbo his car. Right? And I was like, wow, that's fucking cringe. I think if you put in your YouTube video title that you're doing like a task and then you don't complete the task, you should probably be shot into the sun. What did he do? Well, he started it. He just didn't finish it. And it's like, okay, well, death, I guess. W clickbait, but it's not like clickbait. It's just a lie, bro. Like, listen, I clickbait. I go exposing super scammer of the century. But that's a lot different than being like, hey, I'm throwing a turbo in my car and then not finishing the project in your YouTube video. You know? What do you mean Will has a pet Black Widow. Also, isn't it like half of Twitch streamers, they always do this stuff and they won't? That's true. I still have a green screen stream I gotta do. I will do it. I just have kittens in my... That was not my choice to get. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I have 20 things to do around the house. I'll be right back. The never-ending cycle of things to do at my house. I'll be right back. Give me 2 minutes. That is not what I wanted. I feel like I'm a little small here. Is that better? What the fuck is this? What the fuck was that? Bugs when you lift up the rock.
Release the Epstein files. No, wait, Epstein is actually a host. No, wait, since everyone is spending a ridiculous amount of time on this, I don't know why, just release all the grand jury testimony, even though that's not what people are asking for, and you can't do it without court permission, and the court will probably block that. Trump's I'm not involved with Jeffrey Epstein t-shirt has a lot of people asking questions already answered by his t-shirt. And the funny thing about that meme is that it was originally literally about human trafficking. But the long and short of it is that the MAGA movement may have finally taken a stand against the Trump administration.
The current DOJ under Pam Bondi is covering up crimes.
But back in 2024, candidate Trump made some promises about releasing these so-called Epstein files.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
During his most recent presidential campaign, Trump said that he would have, quote, no problem looking into the Epstein client list.
The list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Then Attorney General Pam Bondi told everyone that Epstein's legendary client list was right there on her desk. Except it wasn't. Pam Bondi released a 2-page memo saying that actually Epstein did just kill himself. There's no secret client list, and there are no more documents that are going to be released. And everyone believed her, and that was the end of the story. No, I'm just kidding. Trump supporters weren't having it at all. Even Trump's reliable buddies over at Fox News aren't buying the narrative.
Why do you say he's become the deep state?
What is more deep state than covering up for pedophiles?
And Trump took to Truth Social to post a long screed proclaiming how great Bondi is and telling everyone to, quote, not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Except that a whole bunch of people care a whole lot about Epstein.
Make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Raise your hand if it matters a lot to you. Raise your hand. So every hand of 7,000 people.
And now we live in a world where Congress's resident Jewish space laser enthusiast Marjorie Taylor Greene and Silicon Valley progressive Ro Khanna might finally agree on something. And meanwhile, while all this was playing out in the media, the Trump Department of Justice finally acted on Ghislaine Maxwell's plea for the Supreme Court to overturn her conviction after months of delay. Oh, and now Donald Trump is threatening to sue, quote, the ass off of Rupert Murdoch. He's furious because the Wall Street Journal published a story last night about Trump sending Jeffrey Epstein a handwritten birthday card in 2003, where Trump hand drew sketches of a naked woman and then made his signature mimic pubic hair, and which Trump ends the letter with, quote, happy birthday and may every day be another wonderful secret. So suffice to say, there is a lot going on here, both in the media, in the government, and in the courts. And a lot of suspicious timing with how the Trump administration is playing this, and baffling statements from Trump himself. So as the MAGA world implodes, let's take a step back and talk about how we got here, what the Epstein files actually are, and what they are not. And make no mistake about it, apart from all of the fabricated conspiracy theories, the Epstein saga does point to an actual real-life conspiracy that spits in the face of anyone who cares about equal justice and the rule of law in this country. But from the very beginning, everything that touched Jeffrey Epstein reeked of corruption. In 1996, Maria Farmer, an artist in her mid-20s, reported to the NYPD and the FBI that Epstein and his associate, British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, had violently sexually assaulted her while she was visiting his property in upstate New York. Farmer claims that she also warned the FBI that Epstein and Maxwell had committed multiple serious sex crimes against girls, including her minor sister, that Epstein stole nude and partially nude photos of 2 of her minor sisters, and that he possessed child pornography. But neither law enforcement agency followed up on Farmer's complaint. And nearly a decade later, in March of 2005, a woman reported to the Palm Beach police that her 14-year-old stepdaughter had been molested by a wealthy man. In subsequent police interviews, the girl confirmed that she had been recruited by a female classmate, also an undergrad, who had done sexual favors for Epstein in exchange for money. That classmate apparently took the 14-year-old complainant to Epstein's house, where his staff escorted her to his bedroom. Epstein appeared in nothing but a towel and told her to undress and then massage him, and during that massage, he sexually abused her. Now, the unnamed complainant came from a rough background. The underage classmate who recruited her had recently been sexually assaulted before she met Epstein, and this would become a pattern for Epstein. He preyed on girls from poor, violent, and troubled backgrounds, sexually abused them in exchange for money, and then paid them to recruit similarly troubled girls for him to abuse. Now, when Palm Beach detective Joe Ricari began conducting witness interviews, Epstein was quickly tipped off by one of the potential witnesses. Epstein then hired his own private investigators who sought out victims and witnesses often before they were even contacted by the police. Detective Ricari still managed to identify 17 victims, all in the 14 to 20 age range, all of which recounted a similar fact pattern of the original 14-year-old victim. Recruitment by another girl or woman, ostensibly to give Epstein massages in exchange for money, being told to undress, and then being sexually assaulted or groped, being paid for the massage and sexual interaction, and being offered compensation to find future victims. Now, based on the overwhelming testimony, Detective Ricari provided the state's attorney's office with probable cause affidavit drafts for felony sexual offenses for Epstein and 2 of his female recruiters. State's Attorney Barry Kreischer, though, declined to talk to any victims or parents and decided that 17 witnesses just wasn't enough to make a case. So Kreischer offered Epstein a sweet plea deal. When Epstein rejected that, Kreischer made the highly unusual choice to take the matter to a grand jury. Typically, a state's attorney would simply charge and arrest the accused. But during the grand jury proceedings, the prosecutor, Lana Belahovalik, invited only 2 victims to testify before the grand jury, and it appears that Belahovalik actively undermined her own witnesses by peppering the girls with questions about unsavory social media posts and even accusing a 15-year-old victim of being a prostitute. Now, the state's attorney's office was also in close communication with Epstein's defense attorneys. And in fact, it was Epstein's attorneys who provided the prosecutors with the underage girls' questionable social media posts, which the prosecutors then used to bully their own underage witnesses. And in the end, the grand jury returned only a single charge: felony solicitation of prostitution, which said nothing about the girls being underage. Now, if you're infuriated by this, you're not the only one. Detective Ricari's boss, Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reiter, one of the few good guys in this sordid story, was also furious enough at the state's attorney's actions that he sent a scathing letter to Kreischer stating, quote, "After giving this much thought and consideration, I must urge you to examine the unusual course that your office's handling of this matter has taken and consider if good and sufficient reason exists to require your disqualification from the prosecution of these cases." Detective Ricari also took the extraordinary step of going to the FBI to ask them to prosecute the case, since the state's attorney had done such a poor job. But the feds agreed to launch their own investigation. One can only speculate that this was because they already had a file on the guy from 1996 and probably wanted to save face, but we'll never know. But the FBI's reinvestigation turned up evidence of additional victims, including 34 confirmed minors. And the victims reported the same fact pattern of massages and sexual abuse. The feds found pictures of many of Epstein's victims in his house, as well as plenty of other corroborating evidence tying him to numerous underage victims. And armed with this mountain of evidence, the feds sharpened their lawyers' war axes and offered Epstein a slap-on-the-wrist plea deal that should have made national headlines as a travesty of justice, but it did not. Now, back in 2007, we didn't have the tools we have today to get a bird's eye view of how the Epstein slap on the wrist spread throughout the media and public sentiment. But when you use modern technology, you can see the massive political earthquake over Epstein in real time. We can see that there have been 372 stories about Epstein in the last 3 months, with 46% of the coverage coming from right-leaning sources, 24% coming from the center, and 30% coming from the left. And if you take a closer look at specific stories like the reporting from Wired that revealed editing in the security camera video of the night that Epstein died, you see a fascinating breakdown of how attitudes across political divides are rapidly changing. This story was only covered by about 50 sources, with 40% of the coverage coming from the right. On the left, sources mostly frame the missing footage as critical minutes that point to a larger cover-up and possible conspiracy. On the right, sources largely agreed with the left that the missing footage was critical, and were even more likely to embrace the yet unverified as of this recording claims that there exists even more missing footage. And in the center, sources typically focused on the problematic nature of the missing footage, but were not as likely to point to a cover-up. Now, headlines and coverage vary greatly depending on the source, which is why I use today's sponsor, Ground News. The Nobel Peace Center called Ground News an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. They've been a longtime supporter of this channel and independent journalism at large. Because Ground News gathers related articles from around the world and across the political spectrum, so you can see the bias and compare coverage. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the source's reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. Now, one of my favorite parts is their bias comparison feature, which highlights specific differences in reporting across the political spectrum. I also love their blind spot feed, which shows you stories that are underreported by either side of the political spectrum. But all this is why Ground News is my favorite way to get the news. And as a legal eaglet, you can save 40% off the Ground News Vantage subscription by scanning the code on screen or clicking on the link down below. This subscription gives you unlimited access to every feature, including the Bias Insight tool and blind spot feed. So click now or I will see you in court. But let's get back to 2007, when Jeffrey Epstein was offered the sweetheart plea bargain deal of the century. In June of 2007, the local U.S. Attorney's Office, under the leadership of Alex Acosta, issued a 53-page indictment against Epstein. Now, negotiations for a plea deal began with Epstein's all-star legal team. Ken Starr, famous for serving as independent counsel during the impeachment of Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz, famous for lots of stuff, and Jay Lefkowitz, a partner at Kirkland & Ellis, the same law firm where Acosta was previously a partner. And after a lot of cozy meetings with defense attorneys at hotels over breakfast, Acosta offered Epstein a remarkable deal. Epstein could plead guilty to state charges, 1 count of solicitation of prostitution and 1 count of solicitation of prostitution with a minor under the age of 18. He would be sentenced to 8 months in jail following a year of house arrest, and be adjudicated as a convicted sex offender who must register twice a year in Florida. And that was it. That was the penalty for sexually abusing at least 34 underage girls in a systematic, calculated way for years. And even then, Epstein only spent his evenings in Florida jail. During the day, he was permitted work release at his swanky office building. Now, Acosta's deal with Epstein included several other gifts fit for a king of Wall Street. An agreement that the victims would not be notified, a promise that the deal would be kept under seal, and an agreement to dismiss all grand jury subpoenas. And Epstein's all-star legal team also managed to secure one more extraordinary victory, a non-prosecution agreement which allowed Epstein and his co-conspirators to avoid federal sex trafficking charges. Now, we've covered this before, but this plea deal was extraordinary for several reasons. First, 18 U.S.C. 3771, the Crime Victims' Rights Act, gives victims the right to be apprised of the developments in criminal proceedings, the right to be present at public proceedings, and the right to be heard related to plea deals, sentencing, and other key developments. Now, the prosecutors not only bypassed any notification of the victims, but they actively lied to the victims, sending them a letter months after the plea deal had already been signed, urging patience while the prosecution, quote, conducts a thorough investigation. Now, bypassing this law at the request of a serial sex abuser's attorneys was an extraordinary move by Acosta's part. Now, second, Acosta's agreement with Epstein not only prevented future prosecutions of Epstein, but also future prosecutions of his 4 named co-conspirators and an open-ended category of, quote, any potential co-conspirators. Another extraordinary gift. Now, both of these aspects of the agreement are legally important, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, the Miami Herald really blew the lid off of this entire story and reported that the plea deal may have been affected by Epstein's role as a witness in the 2008 securities fraud case against Bear Stearns executives. Now, ironically, those executives were later acquitted, along with pretty much anyone else who played a direct role in blowing up our economy. Now, we don't know for sure, but it looks like prosecutors threw a couple dozen underage girls under the bus in order to get some ineffective testimony about the cheating finance execs who tanked the world economy. So Jeffrey Epstein served 13 months of nighttime imprisonment, spent his days at his swanky office, and apparently even continued to have women flown out to Palm Beach to have sex with him in exchange for money. And a few potential violations of the house arrest were documented in the state's attorney's files, but no one took action. And after his 13 months were up, Epstein seemed to return to his ordinary life of sexual predation. And faced with some additional law enforcement scrutiny, he purchased 2 private islands off the coast of the U.S. Virgin Islands in 2010 and 2016, respectively, where he then had even more leverage over his victims. In a later lawsuit, one of his victims revealed that in an act of desperation, she tried to swim off the island to escape him. But Epstein and his co-conspirators located her and then took her passport in an attempt to keep her captive. Another victim alleged that when she tried to escape the private island, Epstein and his co-conspirators returned her to his house and suggested physical restraint or harm if she failed to cooperate. And meanwhile, U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta went on to be appointed as Trump's Secretary of Labor.
On behalf of the President of the United States, it's my honor to welcome you all today to the office of the Vice President here at the White House complex for a very important moment in the life of this administration and in our national life, as I administer the oath of office to the 27th Secretary of Labor for the United States of America, Alexander Acosta.
And all the bad guys lived happily ever after. Until 2 scrappy reporters, a few more heroes in the story, started looking into this. Julie K. Brown, an investigative reporter at the Miami Herald, and Miami Herald videographer Emily Michaud began investigating Epstein in early 2017, about the same time as Acosta was being nominated as Secretary of Labor by Donald Trump in his first term. And they uncovered 80 potential victims as young as 13 and 14 years old when the abuse occurred. and conducted video and written interviews with 8 survivors, the most important heroes in the story, who bravely agreed to tell their stories. And the Miami Herald's investigation ultimately led to Acosta's resignation from his Secretary of Labor role, and finally to a real criminal indictment against Jeffrey Epstein. So, on July 6, 2019, federal prosecutors in New York got a second chance to prosecute Epstein. And unlike Bill O'Reilly, you're probably smart enough to figure out that since this is 2019, this is still the Trump administration. Epstein was arrested at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, reportedly a hub of his sex trafficking network, and under 18 U.S.C. 1591, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York charged him with sex trafficking and sex trafficking conspiracy related to the abuse of dozens of minor girls at his properties in Palm Beach and New York. Now, the Southern District of New York's charges weren't double jeopardy because in Acosta's original case, Epstein only pled to state-level charges.
I had to run all the way downstairs to take out the garbage because I had to get ready because we have a plumber coming over because my fucking power bill was $1,000. I don't think I told you guys this, but I showed you guys, or I did show you yesterday that my power bill was $1,000, and I'm pretty sure it's because my hot water is leaking. I have 2 different places where the hot water is leaking that I've told them, and we have an electric hot water heater, of course. So it was $1,000 fucking dollars, my fucking power bill. Cooked? Yeah. Okay. In Australia, to be fair, it's quarterly.
And the 2019 indictment included.
Stop. In Australia, it's quarterly. To like be fair, like it's not like, but like look at this shit. Like what the fuck is this, bro? Crikey. Is it one of those endless hot water boxes? No. No, it's actually so... And the reason we think it has to do with the hot water heater, okay, is because our last power bill was like $700, which is like still pretty high, $800 for 2 people. But the reason we think it's that is because we've noticed also in the last like month, anytime you take a shower, the hot water does not last a whole shower. Like 10 minutes. It does not last. It's also like there's no water pressure in the kitchen. So we're like, it has to be that. The hot water heater is probably just always running. So anyways, what an insane, stupid fucking thing to happen. I had to run down. I had to clean up thing because we have a plumber coming over to fix it. It's tiny. Our hot water tank is pretty small, Cleric, but I know we have 2 leaks. We have a leak under my kitchen sink, and we have a leak in the bathroom that I know because I see it dripping all the time, and it's hot water. So... Need to go tankless? Yes. Yeah, we need to go that. Yeah. I want to go tankless. Yes. I'd much rather have instant hot water heater. Yeah, no, our power bill is always kind of high near sea, but it's never this high. It's never a grand. It's usually pretty high. To be fair. Better start cooking. Bro, it's like... Anyway, it's just fucking stupid. Yeah, the Osco. We, the last place we lived in, we had a tankless, which was amazing. But... Anyways...
Traditional raw beef sausage seasoned with spices. I don't even want to share this story with you, okay? Because it was not a story. I read it in the newspaper.
Bro, is that my whole rent on his wrist? Is that like 2 months of rent right there on his wrist? What the fuck? How? Bro, how is he so rich? So out of touch. That's at least a month of rent right there on his wrist. That's like the whole living on the couch on his wrist.
paper. But also, it's actually going to